Carlos Sainz's F1 future should not be this uncertain. In his 10th F1 season, Carlos has consistently shown that he is a driver of great quality, regularly grabbing points finishes with Torro Rosso before showing a young Lando Norris how it's done at McLaren. At Ferrari, he's matched Charles Leclerc most of the time, taking race wins off an indomitable Max Verstappen over the past couple of seasons. However, Ferrari will say goodbye to him at the end of this season, and despite there being a seat available at Red Bull and Mercedes, Carlos may find himself at the worst team on the grid next year. So why is Carlos Sainz being left behind this silly season? Well, let's find out. Carlos Sainz's hunt for a drive in 2025 seems to be never-ending. He's been linked with every team with a spare seat on the grid next season, which is everyone but Ferrari and McLaren. The Spanish driver is a 3-time race winner in his 10th season of F1 and only 29 years old. He doesn't make many mistakes, he's consistent, he doesn't seem to cause any problems with his teammates either. He's about as employable as an F1 driver gets. Yet the team that he seems to be the favourite to join is Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber, a meme of a team who have quickly become the slowest on the grid by a long way this year. In Monaco, they were 2021 Haas levels of slow. Valtteri Bottas was 0.4 of a second adrift of the next car in qualifying, and teammate Zhou Guanyu was a further half a second behind him. The other 18 cars on the grid were covered by just half a second in Q1. Only the extreme pace management of Fernando Alonso to create a gap for Aston Martin teammate Lance Stroll to pit and come out in saved Sauber from a truly embarrassing Sunday, with Bottas at least able to hang on respectably in 13th thanks to the DRS train created. But make no mistake, Sauber was, in the new relative terms of F1's ultra-close 2024 midfield, miles off the pace. Carlos Sainz to Sauber next season is like if Sergio Perez went to Haas in 2021 instead of Red Bull. It's the kind of team switch you expect from Daniel Ricciardo or Fernando Alonso, not someone who so far has made some pretty decent career moves. However, this is the situation the current grid is in. All of the top teams are full of drivers who have found success, or have the promise to provide it in the future, or are Lance Stroll. And like a game of musical chairs, Carlos Sainz has had his seat taken away. Yet Red Bull and Mercedes still have a space available for 2025. How are neither of them interested in the joint second most winningest driver since the 2022 Japanese Grand Prix? Well, Mercedes are looking at a rookie F2 driver who isn't even old enough to do an FP1 test run yet instead of Carlos Sainz. Toto Wolff's Mercedes team had the first right of rejection of Max Verstappen's services heading into the 2015 season. They wanted him in their car in the future, and the only thing missing from making that happen was his signature. The problem was that they couldn't get him in a car for 2015, he'd have to wait. Max's dad Jos is not a man known for his patience, so when Red Bull came along and said they could put Max into a Torro Rosso there and then, the Verstappens couldn't turn it down. Max would go on to become Max, and Toto Wolff would be left ruining that decision. More recently, Alpine have been stung in a similar way. They had a young Oscar Piastri in their stable, patiently waiting for a drive following a promising junior career which saw him win F3 and F2 in his rookie season. After a year as a reserve and test driver though, he wasn't willing to wait again and ditched Alpine via the greatest F1 tweet of all time, making the excellent decision to sign with McLaren instead. Toto Wolff seems like the kind of man who doesn't appreciate being made a fool of twice. He lost Verstappen all those years ago. He isn't about to lose Andrea Kimi Antonelli. The 17-year-old F2 driver has been involved in a number of test drives for Mercedes recently. The private test of an old F1 car, known as a TPC in F1, happened in early May at Silverstone, where George Russell and Mick Schumacher also drove Mercedes' 2022 car. Rumours circulated online that the test was a shootout between Antonelli and Schumacher to see who would be Russell's new teammate for 2025, but Mercedes have responded. Our most recent TPC test in Silverstone included Mick, Kimi and George, said a Mercedes spokesperson. It was incorrectly labelled a shootout, which was neither the intention nor the findings of the running. It's important to understand that each driver completed different programs on different days, in different track and weather conditions. That statement hasn't stopped the rumours though, with plenty of speculation that Kimi actually went faster than George did during the test. Antonelli will turn 18 on the 25th of August this year, the minimum age you can be to drive at an F1 race weekend, and there has been plenty of talk that at Monza, the next full weekend after his birthday, Logan Sargent could get the boot in place of Antonelli for the rest of the season to get him ready for his apparent Mercedes seat in 2025. Being rejected for an F2 rookie who's yet to finish on the podium is brutal for Sainz, but Mercedes are planning for the future. They need to rebuild after a few poor seasons that have seen them move backwards, and gambling on a future superstar is a good way to begin that. Sainz might be good in the short term, but a short-term fix isn't what Mercedes need. Red Bull's decision not to go with Carlos Sainz is far more confusing though. While the seat is still available, all signs point towards Sergio Perez getting a one-year contract extension. If this had been 6 months ago, that would make perfect sense. Red Bull was so far ahead of everyone else that having a driver who could pick up points but not upset Verstappen was perfect. Things are changing though. Ferrari and McLaren are a threat, and their 4 drivers all look faster than Checo does currently. Yet Red Bull don't seem the slightest bit interested in hiring one of those faster drivers to replace their out-of-contract driver. Perez doesn't appear able to do the job Red Bull need him to. Carlos Sainz could. The Spaniard has continuously matched Charles Leclerc while the two have been teammates. Despite always being the second best when it came to team decisions though, Carlos got on with his job and performed exceptionally. Perez has been an excellent team player at Red Bull, but his lack of consistency is a problem. Carlos has been an excellent team player at Ferrari, and his consistency is incredible, and he's a team player that Red Bull want as well. He could be Red Bull's Bottas, but the internal struggles between team boss Christian Horner and advisor Helmut Marko could be getting in the way of that happening. Horner has always liked and supported Perez, but Marko has outspokenly criticized the driver throughout his Red Bull career, particularly last season when he struggled for form after the Miami Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo's continued presence at the organization is apparently only happening because Christian Horner likes him, while Helmut Marko wants him gone. Is the same true of Perez? Maybe Horner just doesn't want the hassle of a driver conflict after everything that has happened at Red Bull this year. Sainz's time at McLaren, time at Ferrari, and time at Torro Rosso as Verstappen's teammate suggest there would be weekends where he would be the lead Red Bull driver. Maybe they would be rare, and certainly you'd back Verstappen to prevail over the season. But is Horner really in a position to just save himself the headache instead of maximizing his driver lineup? And so it seems that Sainz is left with no other option than to choose between Sauber and Williams. Of course, Sauber will be Audi from 2026 onwards, an organization which wins pretty much everywhere they race, but with no track record in F1. Why would Sainz turn down a manufacturer with a proven track record in pretty much every series it's competed in for a Williams team that was in so much strife earlier in 2024 that it could only field one car for the Australian Grand Prix? Well, a move to Sauber at the moment looks worse than a seat at Alpine, which is saying something considering they've sacked yet another senior staff member at the end of last week. Carlos's goal is eventually to get into a car that will get him to the front of the grid, but how long does he really want to wait for that to happen? Does he take a gamble on the current worst team on the grid, or on the worst team on the grid from a couple of months ago? It's a brutal situation to be in for a driver who should really have his pick of the entire F1 grid. Are you shocked that Carlos Sainz has ended up in this position? And which of the two evils do you think he'll eventually choose, Sauber or Williams? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.